Can hear you down here too.
Okay.
Mr. President,
Yes, sir.
just wanted to let you know that there's someone in the Zoom listed as an attendee with their digital hand raised. I don't know if that's someone that's supposed to speak tonight or maybe it was just pressed by accident, but I just want to let you know.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone.
Okay, let's get started. Welcome everybody to the Binghamton City Council work session, Tuesday, January 18th, 2022. We stand for the pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag,
United States,
the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation, under
under
God,
God, indivisible,
with liberty
justice,
and justice for all.
Okay, we'll jump right in. I just wanted to mention real quick, Chief Sikoski's here. We're up here at the table today, so it'll be a little bit easier if you have questions, you'll be able to see. We got Mr. Sprudy on this side and Chief Sikoski on this side. I'll mention this again in a second, not to repeat myself, but the snow these last 2 weeks, some extraordinary snow and stuff like that. And it was a great team effort from everybody here at City Hall, including the police department, to help us get some cars off the streets. And then I'll mention it in a second with DPW, parks, and some other departments. So I just wanted to mention that when Chief Sikoski was right here, that we appreciate that and the team effort across our departments and across the city to help and all of us fielding calls and things like that. So I think it was a great team effort. I just wanted to mention that. So, yep. So without further ado, Chief Sikoski leads us off here with our first item tonight. Oh, I'm sorry. Roll call.
Do we need roll call?
Okay, we'll do roll call here. Councilman Scaringi,
Present.
Councilwoman Resnetti,
Present.
Councilwoman Riley,
Present.
Councilwoman Friedman,
Present.
Councilman Burns,
Present.
Councilman Scanlon,
Present.
and President Strawn.
Present.
That's all 7 here.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. Go ahead, Chief Sikoski, you can lead us off.
We'd like to accept a check from the Broome County DWI program, the amount of $8,877.70. It's money we get every year based on arrest, and a certain portion by law goes to the state. This is what the county gets back, and they split it up proportionally. So our share, which I believe was the most of any department in the county, was $8,877.70.
Okay, any questions for Chief Sikoski on this item? Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Wait, sorry, this is Councilwoman Friedman.
Oh.
I do have a question.
Oh, I'm sorry. We were looking.
That's okay.
Go ahead, Councilwoman.
Hi. Thank you. Hi, Chief. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, thanks. I'm wondering why you're asking for this to be expedited, please.
We're having trouble purchasing vehicles, and we've already got the check. Came the last week in the mail, and they're holding the cars till Friday. That money's going to be used to help purchase the vehicles. It's next to impossible to get cars. And we happen to find some that were available, and they're holding them for us. So we have the check in hand. So as soon as I got the check, we did the RL, and that's the reason I would ask for the expedited.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Chief while he's here? Okay, thanks, Chief. Appreciate it. Okay, we have Chief Gardner out there on Zoom land. Chief, how you doing?
Good. How are you, Mr. President?
Good. Go ahead. Tell us
Okay,
about
this
the
is
RL
RL
2214.
number 22-14. And this is an ordinance to amend the 2021 Fire Department budget to fund some over budget items. We need to increase the out of title line, AL leave time, gasoline, diesel fuel, and relocation expenses. And it's for a total of $2,360. And we will take the funds out of the equipment repairs and maintenance line and the building equipment and improvement maintenance line.
Okay, any questions for Chief Gardner? Okay, thanks, Chief. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you. Thank you very
Okay.
much.
Okay. And I think we have Bernice here for DPW.
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry,
Okay.
Dan is out sick today.
Okay, appreciate it. Okay, Bernice, hold on one second. I did just say this a second ago, but I just want to reaffirm that DPW parks and the water department provided a lot of vehicles for this last snowstorm and even the week before. So it was quite an extraordinary storm, not quite as bad as a few years ago, but pretty bad. So I just wanted to thank DPW from City Council and the Parks Department and Sewer Department. And of course, I just mentioned it with the Police Department. I think a lot of the departments worked really well. I got a lot of calls from constituents. It's hard to please everybody, but I think 99.9% of the feedback I got from this last weekend was extremely positive. And if we have any feedback or anything that we can work on, I'm sure they would take that constructively if we missed a spot or something that we need to look at. So I just want to thank you guys for that.
Thank you.
Well done.
Okay, thanks Bernice for coming down. And I believe Dan is sick, so we wish him well. I know he worked really hard planning this last storm as well. So hopefully if he's out there listening or get the message, then we wish him well. And I know a lot of employees have been sick, so hope everybody gets better. So go ahead and tell us about RL 2215.
So this is an RL to transfer funds from a personnel services line to two overtime lines, one in signals, one in streets, and also the electricity line and signals. These are just overages from the 2021 budget that we need to pay.
Okay, does anybody have any questions for Bernice on this RL? Okay, thanks again, Bernice. Thanks for coming
Thank
down
you.
and stepping in. We appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks.
Thanks. Okay, we have Mr. Spaduti here at the table with me, and then I think Lee's going to do one of them. So, John, if you could, thanks for coming down. If you could go ahead and tell us about RL 2211.
Good evening, council persons. Can you hear me? Okay, assume you can. So what RL 22-11 is, it's to authorize the mayor to enter into an agreement called the Low Income Water Household Assistance Program. The agreement is with the Office of Temporary and Disability Assistance with New York State. And essentially, it's an optional program which the city is opting in to participate. It's an optional program for municipalities around the state who provide water sewer service to its residents. And what this agreement allows is residents to apply for water sewer assistance through the OTDA if their sewer water bill is 20 days in arrears. The eligibility is based on income in the household, how many people live in the household, It also has to do if they receive KEEP or SNAP. There's various eligibility requirements, but I would say the primary requirement is based on monthly income and people within the household. It's available to residential households only. And the payment, and it's a direct payment from the Office of the Comptrollers within the state directly to the city if the resident qualifies. They will know within 30 days after applying online or submitting the application either via mail or fax to the OTDA on whether or not they qualify. And the payment will be made directly to the city for whatever amount the resident qualifies for. So once again, this is to authorize the mayor to enter into this agreement with the OTDA for this beneficial program for our residents. That's why it's also being expedited, because we want to participate as quickly as possible. Are there any questions?
Okay, thank you. Go ahead. I saw Councilwoman Riley first.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. How are you doing?
I'm well. Thank you.
Good. I think this is an excellent program, and I think, again, we should offer any assistance, particularly New York State assistance, to any resident that would be eligible. My question for you is, how will this be managed within your department? Do you have the infrastructure to support, say we have a number of applications going in, do you have someone that will be able to readily track and receive the applications once they, I know it's going up to the state, but the approval will come into the hands of whom, and who will be ultimately responsible for engaging the client and making sure everything is processed?
The engagement is all through the OTDA. The only participation by the city is signing this agreement and receiving payment from the state and being able to track those payments. Now, there are some things the city needs to do once we receive that payment. We have to be able to identify those payments in our ledger.
Absolutely.
And we also are not allowed to shut off the water at the curb within 90 days after receiving payment. So that's another qualifier. So I will have to manually track these payments on who has received this eligibility and payment we received it on. It's going to be work for our department. I guess it will depend on how many of our residents participate. I think it's manageable. Because we already have several programs with the state through the public service law that we are manually tracking residents who have applied for COVID assistance in those programs as well. So
absolutely. So you do have the infrastructure to support the over. So let's say everyone applied it and is eligible. You do have someone that will be able to effectively manage and monitor this new program.
Yes, and I would say primarily it's me.
Oh, okay.
So,
all right. Well, thank you for your service. And I'm glad to know that you're willing to do this to assist our residents. I wanted to just make sure that we did properly assess what will happen in the back of house to make sure we are able to support you if something additional assistance was necessary to ensure the program and processing was successful. So thank you.
Yep, I appreciate your concern. Thank you.
Do I see Councilman Burns? Yep, go ahead, Councilman Burns.
You're muted, Councilman.
You're in mute. If I had a nickel for every time that's been
Sorry about
said
that.
in the last year. Go ahead.
Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody. Okay, so when you say residential, is that for renters as well? Does that include renters?
No.
So because there's a lot of renters are responsible for their water bills these days.
Yes. Yep. No, this is for
How would they do
residential.
it? How would they go about getting that help?
Well, for this program, they they can't get the help. It's for residential property owners only.
So, I mean, so somebody lives next door to me, but they're renting the house, and you're going to turn the water off. They can't then apply because they don't own the house, is what I'm getting at.
Councilman Burns, John, if you don't mind, this is Megan Hyman from the mayor's office. I'm not sure if this is pertinent or not, but the city does have a separate rental assistance and utility assistance program that there are still funds left in. And I would just encourage anyone that's in need of that assistance to call 211. That starts the application process, and that should direct those tenants or any other residents to the right person to access the funds.
Okay, thank you. And also, if somebody is in trouble, let's say they've got a notice that it's going to be shut off. If they apply, do you then not shut it off? Do you find out whether or not they will be accepted?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that, please, Councilman?
If somebody's in trouble paying their bill and they've been notified they're going to get cut off at a certain date, if they apply, will you then extend that date until we find out whether or not they're eligible for the help?
Well, the only way I will know if they apply is if they have applied, it's if I receive payment from the state.
Oh, I see.
And upon receipt of that payment, it's 90 days from that date. So I encourage residents that if they are at least 20 days in arrears and they are interested in participating, that they participate as quickly as possible, because I do believe the funds are federally funded and to a certain amount. So I think once the amount is paid out, the program is closed. So I encourage anyone who's going to apply quickly.
Okay, and how are we advertising? How are we letting people know about it?
We will, I mean, the OTDA has put it on their website. I will also have it put on our city website. I didn't want to do anything yet because I wanted to ensure the ball is rolling and the mayor signs the agreement before we encourage anyone.
Okay, thank you.
I will just mention, I don't know if there's an exact date, John. I emailed Mr. Kruger the other day, and I don't think the city turns off in the heart of the winter anyway, but maybe we can all be part of the solution and get this out there as best we can as well to people. But I don't know if there's I don't want to.
The soonest, per the city ordinance, the soonest water turnoffs may happen is April 1st. Last year, we did not turn off water because of COVID. I will likely have a discussion with Jared or with the mayor on how we will pursue shutoffs this year.
Okay.
Whether or not, because there's certain programs, the public service laws, those people who have self-certified that they've been impacted by COVID, actually we cannot turn off at least until June 30th.
Okay.
That was a separate program that for residents as well. So it becomes a little bit difficult to manage if we have those people who can't be turned off and others that can. So I need to have that discussion with the mayor on how we plan to do that this year.
But neither here nor there, we are have a little bit of a natural time here during the winter anyway. So,
absolutely. But
so if we can get this,
do not.
so we get this program off the ground and help the city get the word out. Hopefully, we can get people on this program even before April 1st. So.
And this is Sharon, and I don't mean to step on our city treasurer's toes, but since we were discussing other programs, so in addition to the OTDA program, that's what I call OTDA, it's OTDA. We have the DPA program that the city is currently administering. Also, because there seems to be a question on the notice of shut off, there is language that gives residents the opportunity to request a hearing. Requesting a hearing in and of itself stays any shut off process. And we actually have language from the Second Circuit, which is included. It's a great case, which is basically says if a tenant is not liable under a lease for a utility, all they need to do is send us proof of their tenancy and that they're not liable, and we can't shut off regardless, right? And so that's done by a lease. So as corporation counsel and the city treasurer, I'm happy to have kind of longer conversations about how we address people who are in a utility crisis. But the programs that Megan mentioned, 211 with regards to the RAP, rental and utility assistance, the DPA process we have right now, and our notices are extremely tenant protective. And I'd be happy to do a Cliff Notes version of that via email for you guys to pass on to your constituents. And I think maybe we wait until the OTDA program is started. And that way we can make sure that everybody gets the most amount of information in advance of that April 1 earliest shut-off period.
Okay, thank you, Sharon. Yeah, I think that'd be great information. If you can send that to us, that'd be great.
Thank you all very much for all that.
Yep.
That's great.
Okay, any other questions for Mr. Sperduti as he's here? Okay. Are you doing the next one or is Lee doing the next one?
It's kind of a mix.
Yeah, I can,
Okay, we have RL 2216, combination of John and Lee, so.
yes, John, feel free to jump in, but so we're correcting some tax rolls for 2022 here. Every year we get a packet from Broome County of tax rolls that need to be corrected. They're usually due to some sort of clerical error or something minor like that. In this case, a lot of these properties have to do with, you'll notice it says here on one of the pages, need to cancel water sewer re-levy per City of Binghamton due to COVID-19 hardship.
Right. So I can speak specific to one of the programs Sharon was talking about. One of our residents submitted a self-certification in 2021 that they have been impacted by COVID. Unfortunately, it was after the tax roll had been already re-levied to property taxes after we had already sent the file. So as he self-certified, he was impacted by COVID. I'm obligated to reverse his re-levy of his water sewer liability to his property taxes. So this is what a portion of this legislation is: approval to reverse that tax levy and put it back into its water sewer liability with the city. And I think the other portion is Broome County property.
Right, correct. So any questions on that?
Okay, thank you, John and Lee. Appreciate it. You good? Okay, thank you for coming. Appreciate it. So we got Tito out there.
I'm here.
Hi, Tito. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. Okay, we'll just step through. It looks like you got 4 of them. One was in finance and the other in planning. So that's why it looks like 2 different sections. So go ahead and tell us about RL 2209.
So the first is one of 2 RLs for FEMA grant that we got to acquire and demolish 12 properties on Upper Court Street. So the first just deals with the financial part of that. The city's share is going to be a little over $720,000. And the total project cost is $2.8 million. So FEMA is giving us a little over $2.1 million for the project. And that's pretty much the financial part of it.
Okay, so we'll combine these 2 in that sense for any questions. So 2209 and 2210 are both related to that project, correct?
Yes.
Okay. We have any questions for Tito on these 2 RLs? Okay. Tell us about 2217.
Excuse me, Mr. President, I was unmuted. I'd like to say something about this project, please, if I could.
Sure, go ahead, Mr. Councilman Scanlon, go ahead.
All right, so these properties, they've been flooded 3 times in 12 years. And if anybody's lived through a flood or know anybody's lived through a flood, it's pretty tough to do that. 3 times in 12 years is a lot. So some of these owners up there are welcoming this. It's been talked about for 3 years now, I believe. And so some will take advantage. Not all of them will, but some will. And I just think it's a win-win for the city. it's gonna be green space, and I believe, like I said, this is gonna help some owners out up there who've had some hardship along the way. Thank you, Mr. President.
Yep. Thank you, Councilman Scanlon. Councilwoman Friedman, go ahead.
Thank you, Council President. Hi, Tito. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, thanks. Are there people who are currently living in these properties?
No, all of the properties are commercial.
Oh, they're all commercial. Okay.
Yes.
And are they currently in use? Let me rephrase the question.
Some of them are, so there's a mix, some are vacant. Some have commercial tenants.
Okay. Have any of them been condemned?
Not to my knowledge. There's one in particular that I am thinking of that may have been, but I don't know for sure that any are condemned.
Okay. So the ones that have commercial tenants or that are in use, would those people be compensated for their relocation costs?
No, FEMA does compensate for relocation of residential tenants, but not for commercial. That
Okay.
would have to be between the property owner and the commercial tenant.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. President, if I could jump in here 1 second again.
Sure, go ahead.
Councilman Freeman, to kind of talk about, to answer what you're asking about, economic development will assist these people in finding other space in the city. That's what economic development does. So they will assist them. There's no monetary for the people who are being displaced. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Councilman Scanlon. Any other questions on those the FEMA Upper Court Street? Okay. All right, go ahead on 2217, Tito.
Yes, so okay. So the property owners at 2 Stratford Place is what they're calling it. It's really the parcels at 2.5 and 4 Stratford Place. They're building a new single family house there, and they need power. NYSEG has proposed putting the power underground from Avon Road via 1 Avon Road, which is a city property. So the city would need to grant an easement to allow it. FEMA has already approved the work, and the planning department has no opposition to the work. And the property owner has offered $100 for the easement. And so that easement would have to be approved by city council.
Okay, any questions on RL 2217? I know when we talk about code stuff, and hopefully in a few weeks, I had mentioned to a couple of you when I talked to you on the phone, I think anytime we get a single family residences being built in the city, I think that's a good thing. So hopefully we can help this process move along this way. So, okay, Tito, RL 2218.
Okay, this RL is for the purchase of a section of Griswold Street. It's just sort of a stub of Griswold that extends a little bit north of East Frederick Street. The owners of 75 Griswold, which is Claw Industries, would like to purchase the section of the street. It's about 50 by 62. It's like a little over 3,000 square feet. And that would allow their trucks to turn around while being on their property rather than having to back into a public right of way to maneuver in and out of the lot. Just north of this section that they would like to purchase, it appears that Griswold Street continues, but it doesn't. That's actually already privately owned by the parcel at 2 Grant Street. And so the city would be abandoning this short stub of public right of way, which we think would be beneficial to the city since we would no longer have to maintain it. And this business would need it to more easily maneuver their trucks.
Okay, any questions for Tito on RL 2218? Councilman Burns, go ahead.
Yeah. Hey, Tito, is this the company that those young guys have won the BLDC?
It's the,
contest?
yeah, they're the people that make the glass aggregate for concrete.
Yeah. I've met them. Very nice people. Okay, thanks.
Okay, I think we're good on that. Thanks, Tito. Thanks for coming down. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Council President.
Yep, absolutely. Do we have Mr. Carson? Is he out there anywhere? I can't see him from here, but. Okay, well, we will come back to Mr. Carson. If he comes in, we'll keep an eye open for it. I see we got Chuck on the line.
I'm here, Phil.
Okay, thank you. So we'll go ahead with Chuck. If Mr. Carson comes in, we'll add him after Mr. Shager. So go ahead and tell us about RL 2213.
2213 is another request to use ARPA funds for expenses within City Hall. We used to have someone come through and clean all the doorknobs. We're stopping that. And we have to go out and buy some additional materials for that, as well as buying N95 masks for the ambulance people and the firemen right now, as I'm sure we're gonna have to buy more of those in the very near future. Any questions on that?
Chuck, I'm sorry, I'm not sure if I heard you correctly. Did you say that you are ending the folks coming in and cleaning the doorknobs and all that? Did I hear
Yes,
that correct?
we are ending that.
Okay. Is that like advised to be done? Is that something that we're just kind of following along what others are doing? I'm just wondering, because COVID is still out there, so I'm just wondering.
This is, sorry to interrupt, Sophia. So Councilmember Restinetti, this is Sharon, Acting Director of Personnel and Safety. So the city considered the twice daily, or has been doing the twice daily sanitization through a third party service since the onset of COVID and the return to work. We were required to do it probably for a period of about 6 months, and then that requirement ended by the state. We decided to continue through the end of Mayor David's administration. The cost of the outside party cleaning service is $5,000 per month. At this point in time, their primary role is to wipe down departmental doorknobs, the elevators, stairwells, and printers. It's decided that our departments can handle the process of wiping down their own doorknobs and printers as is best practices by the CDC, provided that they're given the equipment to do so. And our maintenance staff, which we have on site at City Hall, had a contiguous responsibility to do the elevators, stairwell handles, etc. So it's less so that we are giving up any type of sanitization and more so that we're redelegating it based in the interests of the taxpayers, as $5,000 a month going forward is really cost prohibitive. And we now have a handle on what are the necessary sanitization products to get COVID in line. Those concerns were not able to be addressed when we started this process back in March of 2020, and we weren't sure how the disease was transmitted. Now understanding that it has less likely for touch points, although some likelihood, depending if somebody sneezes or respirates on a particular piece of equipment, our staff is much more independently equipped to address use of their own pens, use of their own staplers. And we will be having a department training to go over that with staff. The services are through the end of the month, so we have plenty of time to train staff accordingly.
Great, thank you for that.
Sure. Go ahead, Councilwoman Riley.
Thank you again. Chuck, do we have an estimate as to how much of this $25,000 will be allocated to the firemen and ambulance workers compared to the cleaning supplies necessary to ensure we are applying the correct protocols within City Hall?
I don't know that number right off the top of my head, but I know we were going out looking at N95s today, and I'm not sure what those numbers were.
So this number was derived how? How did we come at 25,000?
We came with a low number, hoping that that's all we need, but as this COVID stuff continues, that number, I think we've come back and asked for, this is up to 75,000 now that we've requested from you since the beginning of the time.
Right, but before we had a major expense, the 5,000 monthly. Now you are asking for more money and we don't have any type of documentation of how this is being allocated. We don't have any estimates. We have nothing.
I'll send you some estimates.
Thank you. And then is there a protocol as to how many N95s each fireman is allocated and responsible for or entitled to, particularly if they're non-public facing?
If they're not what?
Public facing. So if you're in the fire department and you're not, if you're employing safeguards, you don't necessarily need an N95. If you're dealing with patients and you have a high rate of engagement, then an N95 will be necessary. But
I think most of the firemen could potentially be facing the public. I mean, if you're at a fire station, you get a med call, you're off facing the public. Okay, so all people that we have on at any one time has to have N95s.
Okay.
And I'm ultimately going to believe it's going to go into the police again. They had them to start with, but my gut feel is they're going to want more of them in the near future.
Okay, and so why I'm asking that is because, you know, N95s have been in short supply, and then there's been some fraudulent N95s put out on the market, of course. But do we have a ratio, 5 masks per person, per shift? Is there something that has been implemented in terms of ensuring necessary supply for those that are employed and safely? You know, we want to safeguard our teams, but do we have a protocol in place to ensure equity and that we have the right amount on hand to adequately supply our people?
Sure. And are you aware of anything?
We are required by law to provide a face mask and up to an unlimited amount to any employee. We are not permitted to limit the amount of face masks provided to the employee in the workplace. And that's by law, that's by New York state law. With particular—
Not N95 though.
Not N95s, just a face covering. With particular, I can't speak to police right now, but I can certainly speak to fire. Right now, we are requiring, regardless of vac status, that they wear N95s, I should say masks, and the most protective mask possible in the workplace, because we had a massive surge in the fire department. We were at a critical staff shortage with about 25% of our firefighters out of service due to testing positive for COVID-19. They live together, they eat together, they are in one space. They also are our key medical personnel, as 85% or so of their calls are medical transports. And so we really can't risk somebody who is a firefighter who is dealing with an EMS situation on an ambulance transmitting from the fire station to somebody who is immunocompromised or neutropenic. So for example, for firefighters, in requiring them or providing them with N95s is really what's best for the citizens that they are serving. With regards to police, you know, there are certain people who are assigned to office detail, other people who are assigned to road patrol, and they do have different types of exposures. Not so much with regards to the fire department. I can tell you the last time we did a mask order, the mask, and I imagine N95s are slightly more expensive. They were $1 a mask. And so it cost us $10,000 to do our last major mask order. And we're probably about halfway through those, and we got them maybe 2 months ago. We're also required to provide masks to any member of the public who enters our building. So for example, when people come to the courts, right, we also are responsible for providing them with masks.
But those are not N95s.
Correct. No, correct. I'm just talking about the total kind of budgeted amount that Chuck is talking about, that the 25,000 is likely based for example, on another $10,000 order of general masks in order to get us through the winter season, plus sanitization supplies. And I imagine the remainder portion is N95s. And I will tell you, if we don't have enough to provide if we don't have a sufficient amount for our firefighters, we can't be providing them to police who are in office detail. They'll only be able to be provided for patrol.
Okay. And again, this is why we ask these questions, because we have a number that's arbitrarily derived with no rationale behind how these masks will be allocated, nor do we have rationale or an understanding for those that did not realize that you have to have two different types of masks, one for the general public and one for the N95s, which those of us who are required to wear N95s know the cost and the limitations in receiving them.
Yes.
So that's why I'm asking these questions, because it is prudent that we as city council people ensure that we are adequately encumbering funds to supply the people that need the masks, as well as ensuring that the masks aren't sitting and then people grabbing an N95 just because they're there. Because again, we have to make sure those that need them have them, and then understand that you can wear them for a number of days based upon the CDC. And so you don't need a new mask every day necessarily, depending on how long you've worn it. So that's why I asked, are there protocols in place so that we are not allocating funds unnecessarily or allocating funds to areas in which we don't require as much, because the priority is on the N95s for
those are great questions. They're really astute questions, and you kind of hit the nail on the head. I can tell you our protocol for mask distribution at the city is all masks or supplies are stationed out of the office of personnel. Every department that needs a mask is essentially tracked, and I track each box, each mask, each number that goes to a particular department, as well as the ones that go to the courts. So we track our distribution so we know where we are, and I'm happy to provide those figures more granularly. But I think what Chuck is really talking about with regards to the N95s has to do with our medical personnel, and those are the people out of our fire department.
Sharon, the lowest cost that we got today on these were $1.36 a mask.
which is again why I was asking how they're allocated. Is it 5 per week? Because again, those are expensive, and we want to make sure we're able to accommodate.
Yeah, we don't simply dump a bunch of supplies on a department. They have to come and request them, and then justify their use. And if I can see a department that is, exceeding a proportionate use, we can have those conversations with the department head directly. I will tell you, everybody, particularly in City Hall, has been very judicious with regards to the general masks. And, I think the other kind of silver lining is most people outside of the healthcare field are relatively uncomfortable with N95 masks, but we do have tiers of masks in our office. We have ones that are more protective, and to the extent that people are not public facing or working in healthcare, they do not get those special masks. They get the blue masks.
Thank you for that.
Oh, no problem. I could talk about this all day.
So Chuck, I look forward to receiving the budget or the
breakdown.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I also want to just make sure our council president did hear that request. I know we're creating a follow-up list.
Yes.
So that was request from Councilwoman Riley to Mr. Shager regarding the proposed spending for this $25,000.
Yes, noted. I know clerk has taken a note of that as well, so we'll follow up on that.
Thank you.
All right, Chuck, go ahead with 2222.
22 is the 2022 bond ordinance. These are the projects that you approved in the budget process last October, which is $150,000 to go towards City Hall improvements, $1 million for street reconstruction, $100,000 for Ross Park improvements, and $350,000 to Ely Park improvements.
Okay, and we'll be on tomorrow, I believe we'll be scheduling a public hearing on this. Okay. Any questions right now for So we have some time. This is not expedited. We'll have a public hearing as well, but any other questions right now for Chuck on that? Okay, thank you. Chuck, 2223.
2223 is amending a ordinance that we did back in October or November. It was basically a $265,000 that EFC was not paying towards the sewage treatment plant project. When I wrote up the RL, there was two lines, one for 145,000, which was the city's portion, and the other 120,000 is money coming from Johnson City to pay their portion. That 120 was not included on the ordinance that you approved. So this is just going back and adding that 120,000 onto this original ordinance.
Okay, any questions on 2223? Okay, go ahead, Chuck, with RL 22-24.
24 is, back in December, we moved $7 million into a reserve account for the parking garage at Water Street. I'm requesting that we move 850,000 of that money out of that reserve into a line to assist in paying for the design and some other potential problems that may occur that we're unaware of right now. The design cost is anticipated to be about $700,000.
Okay, any questions for Chuck on 2224? Councilwoman Riley, go ahead.
Thank you again. So do we have an estimate from the company we've contracted for the design?
For what?
For the design cost? I know in our original proposal, this was detailed, but did we actually get a proposal from the who is the company that's doing the design and architecture work? Two separate companies. Who's doing?
There's a laundry list of companies that are signed up to do this. It's not just design and architectural. There's environmental. There's
this money right here. We're asking for the transfers just for design and architecture, right?
But there's a lot of different things associated with the design and architectural part of this. There's foundation work that has to be done.
Okay.
Things of that nature. Environmental work that has to be done. That's all part of it to get to the final number.
And there is one company though that is doing the design, right?
Yes, I believe it's Delta. I think they're doing it, but I'm not 100% sure as I'm sitting here. I'd have to go. I asked for that information. I did not receive it today, but I can get you a list of the companies.
And the proposals, because we should have, if they've submitted a bid, we should know how much this cost, right?
This is not going through the bid process because we've awarded a contract to a developer to do the whole process through the LDC.
Okay, so yes, thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Chuck as a whole or on this specifically? Okay, I'll go wait. Councilman Burns, go ahead.
This is actually in regard to the Court Street FEMA. The 600,000, this is the first time this 600,000 has been talked about to come out of our fund balance. So any chance of getting an update, when we get that amount taken out of the fund balance, is there any chance that we could get an update on the fund balance again based on
I mean,
that?
the only way to do it, Councilman Burns, is to say the last one I gave you is 200, or what was it, 24 million, subtract out 600,000 from it. Until I get the books closed, we don't really know what that is. And those books aren't going to be closed until probably middle of April. Example being, we just got our fourth quarter sales tax number that was phenomenal. We're probably about $2 million over budget for 2021 based off of our sales tax numbers. So, these things are changing constantly.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, thanks.
All right. Well, that's a bit of good news. Thanks, Chuck, for sharing that. Okay. We good then with Chuck? Okay. We did find Mr. Carson. He's been trying to call in, so he was out there. Looks like Lee's going to be able to let him speak. If he can't for some reason or has any issues, Megan will fill in, step in, and she's going to be next anyway. So, but I think we have Steve out there.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, thank goodness. Oh, I was screaming in the phone.
Thanks, Steve. Go ahead with, you can just go right down through. You have 22, 19, 20, and 21.
Let's just combine 2219 and 2221 because they're both effectively the same request. They're just from two different RLs for the original contracts, if that's okay.
Okay, sure. Go ahead.
So in both cases, all of the capital projects were delayed this year for various reasons. The Powell Center roof, we had an ERR issue with endangered species that took a long time to figure out. The Boys and Girls Pavilion was in the floodplain, which caused extra issues. The family planning door is ready to go, but they were telling me they needed a little bit extra time to do it. There's an insurance issue with the House of Worship, but that was cleared up finally today. Actually last week, sorry, not today. So all of those are ready to go and will be done hopefully within the next few months, although winter is going to be problematic. But my request there is to extend the contracts that ended on December 31st to the end of June 2022 to give them extra time. There is no extra money here. It's just a request to extend the existing contract out.
Okay, thank you, Steve. Any questions for Steve on that? Okay.
Okay.
Was the one in the middle 2220? Steve, is that the next one?
Correct, 2220.
Okay.
So this should look familiar to anyone who's been doing this for a few years. This is our round of 2022 CDBG and ESG regular contracts. Just like any other normal year, this is usually about the time of year we do it. What's interesting is City Council has kind of already approved these, but not specifically. If you look through the 2022 budget for CDBG and ESG, you'll see pretty much all of these agencies listed in there for the amount. So this is just permitting the mayor to enter in a contract with these individual agencies for the programs, for a variety of programs. But this is just our regular roundtable of ESG and CDBG programs.
Okay. Thanks, Steve. Any questions for Steve on 2220 or the other or 19 or 21? Okay, looks like we're gonna. Thanks, Steve, for being persistent and getting in. We got you, so appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Yep, thank you. Okay, we have Megan on the Zoom for discussion on the grant application for CDBG COVID-19 program.
Yes, thanks, President Strong.
Yep, go ahead, Megan.
So this is related to an RL that came to City Council back in November. It should be the last 2 pages of your packet. It was authorizing a grant application from the Housing Authority to the New York State Office of Community Renewal. If you recall, this is the funding that would be used by the Housing Authority to replace outdated elevators in North Shore Tower 2 downtown. New York State recently changed the max amount that can be awarded through that program. So the Housing Authority now wants to apply for the full $800,000 cost of the project. So we'll be coming back to you at the next City Council work session with an RL that reflects those changes in the grant application. But in the meantime, we're just asking that Council consider setting a new public hearing at tomorrow's business meeting.
Okay. Any questions for Megan on that? Did you want to say something, Lee?
So if you look at our packet that went out today for tomorrow night's business meeting, we're setting that public hearing tomorrow night.
Okay. Great. So we're gonna have two, right? 2%, two. Okay. So we got the bond ordinance and then this. Those are the two public hearings. Okay. Thank you. Councilwoman Riley, go ahead.
Yes, before Megan leaves, thank you, Council President. Megan, during the storm, which we all were able to kind of coordinate some of the updates from DPW and all of our city teams, a lot of the residents brought back an alert or a text system. Has that been considered? Or I want to share it with you first, because I did get a number of calls and messages because people went to the website and there was no update, or they're not Twitter or social media gurus, but they did say if we had a text, city text that would alert, that may be a reasonable solution. So I wanted to share that and ask if that has been discussed or considered.
Councilwoman Riley, would this be a text update with like the press releases that we send out, or what information specifically are they looking for?
Well, it would be just alert. It could be whatever, but specifically alerts like do not go out. DPW has been alerted. They're on their way. I don't think as much of the press releases, at least I wouldn't want that in my alert, but just something regarding updates that are textable and they can opt in.
I hate to, and I don't want to interrupt Megan because I know that she's got it, but I do want to raise that the city currently is conducting interviews for that wonderful position you guys authorized, which is the website and social media coordinator. And this actually has come up in the course of those discussions with regards to providing various alerts to citizens and kind of the way we can use tech to enhance those communications. So we haven't fully fleshed out those ideas. Our hope, however, is by onboarding our website and social media coordinator, we can have those kind of vigorous and further discussions on the ways that we can effectively transmit information to our populations in the way that they are used to or is more conducive to them actually receiving that information. So like another great example of that is when we're doing street work, we provide paper notices to everyone on the street. So this would be something that's relatively similar. I know the mayor's office is interested in fleshing out any type of tech solutions that can enhance our responsiveness to our citizens. And so, yes, that's an ongoing discussion that we are having on the IT side.
Okay, so this is a priority then, or it has been considered as one of the priorities for in increasing engagement and awareness for city residents.
Yes, as in fact, one of the reasons why this position is created is order to enhance that. So hopefully when we're able to onboard somebody who can manage kind of the staffing as well as an expert in those communication areas, website and social media coordinator, that's exactly one of the things that we envision them doing. It actually came up in the context of all three interviews today.
Awesome. And now that's great to hear that it's within IT, but I want to make sure that it's an administrative also priority so that it is implemented and we see the change opposed to one facet of government saying they want it and then another saying, well, it's not a priority. So,
Absolutely. I mean, I should say the initiatives being proposed by the IT department are supported in an absolute fashion, a really refreshing fashion by this administration.
Yeah, Councilwoman, I would just echo what Sharon said, that's really the driving force behind creating that position. So thank you for bringing that to our attention and, passing on the feedback that you received from residents. But I would just echo everything Sharon said.
Awesome. So then we may see some changes relatively soon.
Hopefully with that new position. Yeah, we're looking forward to that.
Awesome. And those are the kinds of things council, particularly this council member, likes to hear so that we can share with constituents and those that may be watching now feel more informed that we are thinking like that and strategies are being implemented. So thank you for sharing.
Sure.
Thank you for that discussion. Councilman Burns, go ahead.
Yeah, I would just throw out there that the ice storm. I mean, the mayor and the city did a great job. I mean, we had salt people coming up backwards on the street, but I mean, it was really a dangerous situation on my side of town here. And in the morning, people didn't realize how dangerous it was, you know? So I think that type of an alert system would be fabulous.
No, I agree. Yeah, that was extraordinary up on the hills on the south side, and I'm sure some of the north side as well. Councilwoman Freeman, did I see your hand there? Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. I had some tech issues. Can you hear me right now?
Yes, I can.
Okay. So I had a momentary lapse in audio, and so I actually did not hear when we first started talking about this piece of legislation. So just to clarify, this is 21-261. Is that the piece of legislation we're discussing right now? Or no? Am I alone?
Councilwoman Friedman, the agenda item that I was on for, it wasn't that last RL in your packet. It's one that came to City Council, I think November of last year. We're just asking today that council set the public hearing at your business meeting tomorrow, but we'll be coming down with a new and updated RL likely at the next work session.
I see. Okay, thank you. I was confused because I saw the November date and the 21, and I was like, wait a minute, hang on. I must have missed something. So that makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, any other questions for Megan while she's here? Okay, thank you, Megan. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, now we have Brian Seacrest is with us for some discussion on the corporate counsel's office. So you ready, Brian?
Yes, thank you.
Okay,
ma'am.
thanks for coming. Go ahead.
Oh, very good. I'm here actually with Sharon Sorkin. I believe I've met most of you in person. We had some good news. Actually, the last topic was perfect lead into what we're talking about, because we're talking about another change position or a new position. You authorized an increase in the salary of the assistant corporation counsel position to $58,000 in this last year's budget. We have been looking for someone to fill that position for several months. And last week we found somebody who is highly qualified to do that. Just out of law school. She needs to take the bar exam in next month, and then so she won't be here until March probably. But when we made the offer to her, she asked that we increase the salary to $60,000. We told her we would have to come to you to do that. And she asked, well, should I wait on accepting your offer until that's done? And we said no, but because I believe that I was confident we would have your support on making that small increase. The other thing that I would, just from the practical side of things, is because she's only going to start in March, there will not actually be an increase to this year's budget because of the 2 months that she will not be being paid for. And so it would only affect next year's budget. It would, however, affect the check that she actually receives during the rest of the year. So we asked to come down for the discussion, simply to sort of take a straw poll or to see if we would see heads nodding about whether this would be approved. We will bring an RL down to you for the next session for approval at the next meeting, but we wanted to bring this to you as soon as possible and sort of receive your input on where we went with that.
And this is Sharon, just to add. Well, one of the reasons we came down tonight is Brian has been at the city for over 20 years. He is selfless public servant, and many of you don't know him because he is the man behind the scenes. He is the kind of institutional knowledge that the city relies upon in its day-to-day practice. And I'm excited that you all get to meet him in this capacity as the corporation counsel. Certainly, he is one of the reasons why I am still at the city of Binghamton. He is a committed public servant, and he has made me a better attorney. With that said, I'll now move on to the issue 2. The attorney we would like to hire, or the woman who is about to take the bar, is named Methasim Mahfouz. She is local to Binghamton. She's was born and raised here. She did leave us to go to college. She's committed to the public sector. She speaks 5 languages. And she is quite impressive. She's the first female person of color to be the president of her student bar association. She was elected to be the head of their moot court association in her 2nd year of law school. And she is quite a get for the city. One of the things that we've been hearing from candidates and applicants is that the salary is too low. We've extended the offer to several people who have declined based off of the salary. So her ask for 60 is actually lower than the ask of the competing candidates who turned us down. And as a result, because it is cost neutral for 2022, we're requesting, and obviously you don't have an RL before you, but we didn't want to expedite. We didn't want to put pressure on this council to do something overnight, but we did want to raise the issue because we'll put it on for the next work session following business meeting so that we could provide you with as much information as possible and hopefully get back to the applicant that, you know, based off of a straw poll that council considers this extra $2,000 a reasonable request. And we will, and she's given us permission to circulate her resume, which is quite impressive for your review. Does anybody have any questions?
Hold on one second, Councilman Riley. I just wanted to make a couple quick notes. One is welcome, Brian. We really are excited to have you. I know you've been to more than a few meetings, at least during budget time and stuff like that. So I think most of us have at least seen you dust yourself out of the office a couple times, but
Yes.
but we're excited. I think well deserved, and so yeah, welcome. We were excited about that.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. And second thing I just wanted to mention, at least, and for this I'm really speaking just for myself, but I've said this right from the beginning. I think a couple years ago we had a carpenter's position. We've had several other positions in budget. You know, we need to have good employees here. And I certainly, for me personally, would support this. And I think as we move into the budget process for this coming year, I know it just feels like we're just over, but it's not going to be long before the city's in that process again. I do think we need to look at some key positions across the city and just make sure that we want to be a good employer at multiple levels, not just the employer in general, but you know, we want to pay people fairly for their expertise and their education and things like that. So I will, you know, so anyway, I mean, we have to talk about it as a group, but I just wanted to mention that. Go ahead, Councilwoman Riley.
Thank you, Council President. So again, welcome, Brian. It is good to see you on the screen.
Thank you.
We will be leaning on you quite a bit. So welcome. Get ready. But nevertheless, we did have a conversation with, I can't believe I forgot his name.
And Frank.
Yes, about the salaries. And he sent us a spreadsheet and we talked about it at length during the last year prior to the budget process. My thing though, however, is we've had some changes in the department, and how would this salary compare to some of the more senior associates? Because we have to be equitable in our raises if we're hiring a new person and they're making more than someone that's more senior.
The only two people more senior are on the screen with you right now making the request. So, so I don't think we're not offended by it at all. Because quite frankly, we need the help, and I believe this young lady. I didn't a resume like Sharon did, but she is one of the most qualified people we've interviewed in a long time. That's why we wanted to come to you for that.
Okay, well, I appreciate knowing that. I thought there were other people.
No, just at this, and quite frankly, at this point, Sharon's not even in the department because she's mostly the director of personnel. So we're looking for that position to be filled so that we can bring Sharon back up to our office. Yes.
Okay. So there will be 2 people outside of you in the office, and then someone will replace the position Sharon is currently holding.
That's correct. Yeah. So right now we goes to Civil Service Commission tomorrow. Hopefully they pass and approve her. but we should be able to nail down the director of personnel position by the end of the week, which would put me on a 30-day timeline to be back in the Office of Corporation Counsel as the first assistant corporation counsel, should the mayor choose to go forward with that appointment, which I believe he will. And then this would be our assistant corporation counsel, is the position Methasine is applying for. And that would lead us to a full staff. In addition, we've secured a risk assistant paralegal to start with us at the end of February. And we do now have a secretary to corporation counsel who's been with us for several months, and she came from a state senator's office, she's quite qualified, and also is a certified paralegal. So we're hoping really within the next 30 days that both of these offices will be fully staffed. Right now, Corporation Counsel Sechrist is shouldering the labor of 3 to 4 people.
Thank you.
Councilman Scanlon, did I see your hand there a second ago?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President.
Go ahead.
This has been a while coming.
Can't hear you too good right now.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me? Thank you, Council President.
We can't hear you. Tom, we can't hear you.
Can anybody else hear me?
A little bit better.
There, it's better.
All right. I think this has been a long time coming, raising some of these salaries in City Hall. I'm for it. In order to attract good people, we have to raise the salary up a little bit. And there's key positions that we need good people in. So I'm certainly not opposed to raising the salary in this case. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, thank you. Did I see Councilman Scaringi? Go ahead, and then I'll get to Councilman Burns.
Thank you, Mr. President. Brian, congrats, well deserved.
you.
It sounds like through the interview and the CV process, if both Brian and Sharon feel confident that the candidate's skill set fits what the Corp Counsel's office needs, I have no problem with it.
Thank you. Councilman Burns, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, Brian and Sharon. Yeah, I agree with the other counselors that I support this 100%. We need qualified people to work for us. And Brian, I just wanted to say congratulations to you. I know each mayor that you served under, and each one of them always praised your work. So I know that we are very lucky to have you, as they were. And thanks for taking the job. Bye.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Councilwoman Rosinetti, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Brian, congratulations.
Thank you.
And I just want to echo everything pretty much that's been said by everyone here. This is an important position, and we need to be paying folks for the work that they do. So I would be supporting this as well.
Thank you. Councilwoman Freeman, did you have your hand up? Go ahead.
Well, I suppose I don't want to be left out here, but congratulations, welcome.
Thank you.
And I also, like my colleagues, would support an increase if it meant compensating qualified candidates fairly, and especially attracting someone who is local. That was one of the things that I know there was legislation that came before us recently that was about extending expanding the geographical range from city to county in which we would accept applicants. And, it was a tough call, and I voted no for that legislation, although it wasn't an easy decision to make. And so to hear that we have a qualified candidate within the city of Binghamton who has all of those, above and beyond qualifications, that is exciting for the Corporation Counsel department, and also I think for City Hall as a whole. So I also would be in favor.
Thank you, Council Freeman. I do want to make sure that you understand. When I said that she was local, she's not in the city of Binghamton, but she's just outside the city of Binghamton. She has strong connections to the city of Binghamton and to this area. So that's why we said local. I did not say she's in the city of Binghamton. But let me put it this way. She has a whole lot more local connections than any of the other candidates we interviewed. We were receiving applications from South Carolina, North Carolina, all over the place. They had connections to this area, loose family connections, but she has lived and resided here in the locally, and she wants to come back and she wanted to serve her community in this area. So she
And she's-
considers Binghamton her home.
Yeah, and she is currently living in the city of Binghamton.
Oh, she is.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, very good.
That's why Brian and I make the dynamic duo, and I cannot wait to be back in the law office. One of the reasons we also wanted to talk with you guys tonight, and thank you so much for all of your support for our office and what's in the best interest of the taxpayers of the city of Binghamton. I would expect no less from this wonderful team of council members. I will be attending city council work sessions and business meetings through the end of February, or I should say through my return to the Office of Corporation Counsel. As you know, Ken Frank has been assisting us and is continuing to assist with legislation. I am technically still the acting director of personnel and safety. However, in order to ensure a continuity of information, making sure that you get the information that you need and that you have your questions answered, I'll be attending our work sessions and business meetings through the end of February. Brian will be covering our other boards, our Planning Commission and our ZBAs, in addition to running the Office of Corporation Counsel at a relatively low staff level. Once we come out of the end of February, we expect to share a little bit more of that so you can get to know him in more detail. But if you have questions and you are not able to be in touch with Ken, please feel free to CC me or reach out to me, and I'll make sure we get your questions answered in advance of the business meeting where possible.
Okay, thank you, Sharon. We appreciate that.
Councilman Strawn, if I just may for a moment.
Sure.
I'd like to thank the council for your kind words towards me, but I thank you most of all for the support for this position and for the office. That means a great deal, and I'd like to thank you for that.
Absolutely. Thank you. Okay. Does anybody else have any other questions or comments for our esteemed corporate counsel people that have been on with us before they go for the evening? Okay. Thank you both. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay. Pending legislation, Lee, anything noteworthy? I know we can read through that and we've seen it before. Anything you want to highlight for us?
No, the packet for tomorrow night went out earlier today. There's 9 items on here. I'll let you read through those. And if you have any questions, you can ask now or email everyone in the morning.
Councilwoman Riley, go ahead.
Yes, thank you again. So the hearing we're scheduling for the OCR funding will be for next session, correct?
Correct. So tomorrow night we'll be setting 2 public hearings, one for the bond, one for the OCR grant.
Perfect.
And
now,
those will take place in our
February 9th, correct?
Correct. February
okay,
9th.
so my question though, however, is the public hearing is for residents to comment on the CDBG program administered by OCR. Are we housing that information with the packet so they can make informed comments? Where would they gather this information?
I can reach out to the mayor's office if you'd like for that. I suspect it's just what's in the RL. And I can repost that under tonight's meeting as well.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Freeman, go ahead.
Thank you, Council President. I had something kind of random that I wanted to bring up just as maybe a food for thought. And that is, I was thinking lately that we are one of the, we are one of the only elected offices that refer to each other with gendered titles, councilman and councilwoman. And I don't know if you've noticed, but we council women often get called councilman, just because it's shorter. And I was wondering if we might consider using a gender neutral title such as counselor or council member. It's not a big deal, but it just, we don't like the mayor or legislators or even the president, so it was just something that I was thinking of, that I noticed a lot of times people call me Councilman Friedman just by accident. And I don't know, I think it might be better just as food for thought if we considered using a gender neutral title instead. I don't know what you all think about that.
Anybody have any thoughts? I mean, I certainly, didn't mean any, I know you didn't say it that way. I certainly never intended, and I know you didn't say that either. I guess I'm indifferent in some ways. I want to call people like they want to be called and just respect them in that way. So I don't know if there's any reason we can or can't do that. Anybody else have any thoughts on that?
This is Sharon, just from a kind of pure legal perspective. Counselors has a different meaning than council members. Council members would be the gender neutral term for councilman or councilwoman.
Okay. Okay. Council member Riley.
Well, as another councilwoman, I don't mind being called councilwoman because I do identify as a woman. So I do appreciate, though, the gender neutrality that is being requested, but I like being called Councilwoman Riley and not Friedman, but Councilwoman Riley. And so if we're going to have the discussion, I'm open, but again, my pronouns are she and her, and I like councilwoman. Thank you.
Okay, well, I guess we can discuss this further. I guess I can, I don't think it's a legal thing. I don't know if we, Sharon, I don't know if we, just same as everything else, have somebody, if they request that for themselves, then we do that. If not, then is that? I don't want to overthink this.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. One of the problems with being a lawyer is, we're constantly fixated on the fact that like words mean something. So it's my job I should say it's my inclination. It's not necessarily my job. It's my inclination to highlight where a word, like for example, counselors, by stating it, you're not necessarily stating it with spelling. And by counselors, you typically are talking about people who are counselors, whether or not it's a social work setting or an attorney setting. And so I think that word lends itself to a little bit of confusion. But as far as the law office is concerned, the city council can decide how to direct or how to identify, and really we have no part in it. That's part of the ordinary operations of how city council wants to conduct business and refer to each other as a matter of courtesy and respect. As you can see, Councilwoman Riley has her pronouns immediately after her name, and certainly, using a virtual setting to take advantage of how you'd like to be referred to. You can title yourself when you log in and how you wish to be referred. And I certainly thank Council Member Friedman for flagging the issue of gender neutrality in terms. As you know, I've presented several contracts to you where we've particularly tried to remove gender identifying language in the terms of our contracts and creating gender neutral. But for council, it's certainly not required. It's more of a matter of practice and what the preferences of the individuals in the majority is.
Okay, thank you. Well, something to consider. Let's further this discussion next time we get together and come to a resolution on that, if that's okay with you. Okay, anything else for the good of the order before we adjourn?
Motion to adjourn, Mr. President.
Second.
All right, we're adjourned. We'll see everybody tomorrow night, 6 o'clock. Thank you. Have a good night.